Hello everybody, this is Devlin Rue bringing you another tips and tricks video on over Photoshop CS6. I have a variety of images and one of them being this image, which you may think is a little bit blurry and you want it to look a little more vibrant and popped. For that you want to duplicate this layer by pressing Command J or just right clicking and pressing duplicate layer. Make sure that layer is selected and come up to the filter tab. Press Sharpen and Smart Sharpen. You want to increase the radius. It may be set down here for some of you because that might just be the preset, but you want to increase it to whatever you think may look the best and more vibrant on the picture. For that, and you also want to remove lens blur because sometimes cameras can have a little smudge on them which might blur out some of the image, and press OK. You then want to duplicate this layer, the layer you just worked on, press OK, and come up to the filter tab once again, Other, and click High Pass this time. For some of you, once again, it might be set at 3 or 5, but for this specific project, we want it to be at 10, and press OK. You may see that it's a little gray, but you can fix that by coming over to the blending option and coming down to overlay. As you can see from the beginning layer to the ending layer, it looks a lot more vibrant and popped on the image. On to the next image. This image you may think is the sun in the corner is very bright compared to what we want it to be because you can't really see the background. If you want to fix that, you can come over to the brightness and contrast adjustment and decrease the brightness because we think it's a little bit too bright for this photo. And you also want to decrease the contrast because we want it to look a little more dull and not as popped as we did on the last image. As you can see, the before and after is much more clear and more announced that the background is back there. For our third image, if you want it to look like someone drew this picture and not just a regular old picture of a creek, almost like someone drew it like an oil painting, you want to duplicate this layer 3 times by pressing Command J, and you want to hide the top 2 layers and make sure your first layer is selected. You want to come up to Filter, Filter Gallery, and make sure your artistic folder is selected and click Cutout. You also want number of levels at 4, edge simplicity at 4, and edge fidelity at 2. Once you have those settings set, press OK. And then after that, you want to show this layer, your second layer, I guess, and make sure it is selected. Let's backtrack a little bit. On this layer, you can't see that much has happened, but it'll all work out at the end. You want to make sure your blending option is set at luminosity, just so the ending result will look a little better. Back up to this layer, we also want to click Filter tab, Filter Gallery once again, but instead of cutout this time, we want dry brush. We want our brush size at 10, brush detail at 10, and texture at 3. Once you have those settings, press OK. And before we move on, we want to make sure our blending option is set at screen. And for our third layer, we want to make sure we show our third layer. Make sure that's selected. And come up to Filter once again, and instead of going to Filter Gallery, we want to click Noise and Median. It may be set at a different pixel amount for you, but for this, we want it to be at 12. Press OK. And for this layer style, which will all bring it together, we want it to be soft light, which is right here. As you can see from our beginning image to a regular old picture, it now looks like someone has taken time to paint it, almost like an oil painting. For our fourth photo, we have a flower with multiple, looks like some type of beetle on it, which looks kind of unique, I thought. And we want it just so this yellow and the bugs around here with this flower popped out with the background around here, black and white. For that, we want to duplicate this layer by pressing Command J, come up to Image, Adjustments, and then black and white. Press OK, and now you can see that our photo is now black and white. You can now take your eraser tool, which is right here, and come up here. You can change your size of your eraser depending on how quick or how precise you want to be. And you just come around and color in. You can also zoom in with Command plus for more accurate results, and you just color it in so your ending result will be all black and white with just this flower and your bugs popping out with their original color. For this photo, we want our emphasis to be on these cows back here. We want all this to be blurred out just so you can see clearly that we want our focus on the cows. For that, we want to come up to make sure this is on because you don't want to erase anything. And you want to come up to Filter, Blur, and Iris Blur. This will give you an oval, which will generally have this inside clear still as usual, but around here you can see you can change this, which will blur everything you don't want. And we want just to change this size and fit it right around the cows. So the cows are still HD or clear if you think of it that way, but everything else around it is blurred out. So your focus is on the cows. And you can come at different blurs, which I don't know, however much blur you want around the cows. But yeah, for this picture, I think this looks about right. And then you just come up here and press OK. For our last and final picture, we have a tree that we want to look maybe a little bit animated, just so it doesn't look just like a normal field with a tree. For that, we want to come up to Filter, Sharpen, and Sharpen Edges. We then want to come up to Filter, Stylize, Diffuse. It'll bring up this little menu, and it might be set at normal for you, but for this, we want it to be lighten only, just so it adds a little, you don't want it to look too dark. And press OK. You also want to come over here to the adjustment bar and come to exposure, and make sure bring your exposure up. I don't think we need to bring it up too much for this because it's already a bright picture. And bring your offset down, just so it's a little more announced. Press OK or just press the X up here. You also want to come up over here to the adjustment bar, and instead of exposure, we want to be at vibrance. We want to have our vibrance, instead of 0, we can bring it up a little bit. You can see that even at 100 it doesn't do much, so I think 100 could be fine. And we want our saturation also to come up, which will bring it all together with some nice coloring to the photo. I think that looks alright. As you can see from our original image here, it just looks all blended in and everything. But once you add these two settings, you can see it's much more popped and vibrant than the beginning image. Thank you guys for watching my tutorials, and I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.